There was a smell that used to live in the back of a black kitchen in the 1930s that had nothing to do with what most folks today would call food. It was the smell of bread going stale on purpose, of bacon grease saved in a coffee can on the stove, guarded like gold, of a woman standing at a counter with 2 slices of bread and almost nothing to put between them, and finding something anyway. Because that was the whole art of it, family. Not having plenty and making a plate. Having next to nothing and making a meal anyway. Making it taste like love instead of lack. Big Mama didn't call it survival food. She didn't call it poverty food. She just called it Tuesday. She called it what we've got and what we're gonna do with it. And what she did with 2 slices of bread and a prayer fed a family through the Depression, through a war overseas, through a Jim Crow South that told her at every turn she wasn't worth much. And she answered every single time by putting something on that table that said different. Today we're going back to 25 of those sandwiches. Not the fancy kind, not the kind with a name on a menu, the kind that came out of hard times and hard hands, and somehow still tasted like somebody cared about you. Hey family, I'm James, and you already know how we do this. We're going back, way back, to the kitchens of the women who fed a people through the hardest decades this country ever handed them. Now, if this is your first time sitting at this table with me, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. This is where we keep these memories from disappearing for good. So go on, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and let's get into it. Because Big Mama's got some sandwiches to show you, and every single one of them has got a story stuck to the bread. Number 1, the butter and sugar sandwich. Now, before you turn your nose up at that, understand something. In the early 30s, in a house with 6 children and one income that had just been cut in half, sugar was cheap and butter was what you had if the cow was still giving. Big Mama would take 2 slices of white bread, spread the butter thick enough to see her thumbprint in it, and sprinkle sugar across the top like she was blessing it. She'd cut it in a triangle, hand it to a child who'd been crying about being hungry, and that crying would stop before the second bite. It wasn't nutrition, it was comfort. And back then, comfort was sometimes the only thing on the menu. She used to say, "A little bit of sweet goes a long way when times are bitter." That sandwich wasn't about being full. It was about being loved on a day when there wasn't much else to give. Number 2, the mayonnaise sandwich. This one you'll still find in some houses today, though most folks don't know why it exists. Back in those days, mayonnaise was one of the few things that stretched. A jar could last a family 2 weeks if you were careful. Big Mama would take that white bread, spread mayonnaise edge to edge, and press the second slice down with the flat of her hand like she was sealing a letter. Sometimes she'd crack black pepper over it if pepper wasn't dear that month. It sounds like nothing to you. To a child in 1933 coming in from picking cotton or walking 2 miles home from a segregated schoolhouse, it was dinner, and it was enough because Big Mama made sure the portion looked bigger than it was. She'd cut it corner to corner. Presentation, she'd say, matters even when the cupboard's near bare. Number 3, fried bologna, what the men on the block called the poor man's steak. Now, this is the one everybody remembers, and for good reason. A ring of bologna, sliced thick, dropped into a cast iron skillet with just enough grease to make it curl up at the edges like a little bowl. Big Mama would fry it till the edges went dark and crispy, slap it between 2 slices of bread with mustard if she had it, mayonnaise if she didn't, and call it steak with a straight face. And you know what, family? To a man who'd worked a 12-hour shift for wages that didn't match his sweat, it tasted like steak. It tasted like somebody had gone out of their way to make him feel like more than what the world outside that kitchen told him he was. That sandwich carried more dignity in it than half the meals served in restaurants that wouldn't let him through the front door. Number 4, souse meat on white bread. This one takes a strong stomach and an even stronger memory of not wasting anything God gave you. Souse, some called it hog head cheese, was made from the parts of the hog that a butcher shop with money would have thrown away. The head, the feet, boiled down slow until the meat fell off the bone, seasoned heavy with vinegar and pepper, then pressed into a loaf and chilled till it set. Sliced thin on bread, it had a tang that woke you up. Big Mama didn't waste the hog, family, not one piece of it. God didn't make nothing on that animal for the trash can, she'd say, and she meant it all the way down to the ears. Number 5, fatback and biscuit, pressed flat like a sandwich. Not bread exactly, but the biscuit did the same job. A slice of salt-cured fatback fried till it was more crisp than fat, tucked inside a split biscuit still warm from the wood stove. The grease from the fatback would soak right into that biscuit, and that grease was flavor nobody was throwing away. This was breakfast, lunch, sometimes supper too, depending on how the month was going. It cost pennies. It filled a stomach that had a long day of work ahead of it, and it tasted, Big Mama always said, like the difference between making it and not. Number 6, the molasses sandwich. Sorghum molasses, dark and slow pouring, spread thick on bread that had gone a little hard. This was a country sandwich, a farm sandwich, something you'd find in the rural South more than the city. Big Mama grew up with a molasses jug on the table at every meal, and when times got tightest, that jug became the meal. Sweet, sticky, and it stuck to your ribs the way nothing else could on a day when there wasn't meat to be found for love or money. She'd tell the grandchildren, sweetness costs less than meat and it'll carry you just as far. Number 7, buttermilk-soaked cornbread, folded like a sandwich in a cloth napkin. Not bread on bread, but it did the job. A wedge of cornbread split down the middle, buttermilk poured over both halves till they went soft, then folded closed and eaten out of hand, standing at the counter, no time to sit. This was a working woman's sandwich, something Big Mama made for herself in the 2 minutes she had between finishing the family's plates and heading out the door to somebody else's kitchen, where she'd spend her whole day cooking for people who never once asked her name. Nobody fed her, so she learned to feed herself fast, standing up, and still make it taste like something. Now, family, before we move forward, I want to hear from you. Which one of these has your grandmother's fingerprints on it? Was it the fried bologna, the mayonnaise sandwich? Drop it in the comments and tell me your name while you're at it. I read every single one, and I promise you, somebody else scrolling through these comments is going to see her name and remember their own Big Mama standing at that same stove. Now we're moving forward, family, out of the 30s and into the war years. And the sandwiches change right along with the times. Number 8, the Spam sandwich. When Spam hit the shelves in the late 30s and became a wartime staple through the 40s, black households across the country took to it the way they took to anything that stretched $1 and didn't need an icebox to keep a week. Big Mama would slice it thin, fry it in its own fat till the edges caramelized, and lay it on bread with a little mustard. It wasn't glamorous, but when the butcher shop's good cuts were being rationed off to the war effort, and a black family was often last in line even for what remained, Spam was reliable. It didn't discriminate, it just fed you. Number 9, liver pudding on bread. Made from hog liver, cornmeal, and spices, formed into a loaf and sliced for frying. This was a taste that skipped a generation or two, but back then it was common as anything. Big Mama would fry a slice till it browned at the edges, lay it between bread, and that iron-rich taste would carry a tired body through a long shift at the plant. She always said the children needed their blood built up, and liver pudding did that job cheaper than anything a doctor would have prescribed. Number 10, deviled ham straight from the can. Rationing during the war years hit meat the hardest, and canned deviled ham became one of the few meat products that wasn't restricted the same way fresh cuts were. Big Mama would spread it thin, had to make the can stretch across a whole loaf sometimes, season it further with a little more mustard or hot sauce if she had it, and send the children off with it wrapped in wax paper for lunch. It was spicy, it was salty, and it was proof that even when the whole country was rationing, a resourceful woman found the loophole that let her family eat something with a little kick to it. Number 11, the Victory Garden tomato sandwich. Every family that had a patch of dirt behind the house, and in the rural South most did, grew tomatoes as part of the Victory Garden effort the government was pushing during the war. Big Mama's garden fed the family bread money couldn't always buy. Come summer, she'd slice a tomato thick, still warm from the vine, salt it heavy, lay it on white bread with just enough mayonnaise to hold it together, and that sandwich would run down your arm to the elbow if you weren't careful. That's how you knew it was good. She used to say, if it don't drip, you ain't doing it right. Number 12, egg salad stretched with mustard and relish. Eggs weren't rationed the same way meat was, so egg salad became a workhorse in kitchens where money was tight. But Big Mama had a trick. She'd stretch 3 eggs into a batch that looked like it came from 6, using a spoon of mustard, A little sweet relish if she had a jar put up from the summer canning, and enough mayonnaise to bind it without drowning it. Nobody at that table ever knew it was stretched. That was the whole point. A woman who could make 3 eggs feed 6 children was not just a cook. She was an engineer, and nobody ever called her that. Number 13, the sardine sandwich. Canned sardines were cheap, shelf-stable, and didn't require a ration stamp the way beef and pork often did. Big Mama would mash them with a fork right on the bread, add a little vinegar or hot sauce, maybe a slice of onion if one was in the bin. The smell would fill the whole kitchen, sharp and briny, and the children who grew up on it still can't smell a can of sardines today without seeing that kitchen table in their mind. Funny how a smell can hold a whole decade inside it. Number 14, pickled pig's feet on bread. This one's not for everybody, family, but it was common as rain in a southern kitchen during the war years. Pig's feet, pickled in vinegar brine with peppers, sliced off the bone, and laid on bread with the vinegar still clinging to the meat. It had a bite that woke your whole mouth up. Big Mama kept a jar of them on the counter year-round, and when the meat ran short at the end of the month, that jar was there waiting, already paid for, already preserved, already proof that a woman who thought ahead in January could still be feeding her family in March. Number 15. Fried fatback and cracklins, crumbled onto bread with a little hot sauce. Cracklins, the crisp leftover skin from rendering lard, were never wasted. Big Mama would crumble them over a slice of bread already spread with a little of that same rendered fat. Add hot sauce if there was any in the house. And that sandwich had a crunch and a heat to it that made a hard day feel a little more bearable. Waste was not a word that existed in her kitchen. Everything from that hog had a second life, right down to the skin. Number 16, the chitlin sandwich. Rare and mostly a special occasion thing even back then, but it happened. Chitterlings, cleaned and boiled for hours until tender, chopped fine, and pressed between 2 slices of bread with vinegar and hot pepper. This was a sandwich born from the parts white folks threw in the trash, and black families turned into something people still fight over the recipe for today. Big Mama's version took 2 full days from start to finish. 2 days of cleaning, boiling, seasoning, for a sandwich that might get eaten in 10 minutes. That's love measured in hours, family. That's a kind of love this fast food world doesn't understand anymore. Now, family, let me tell you something real quick. These sandwiches I'm walking you through today, they're just a piece of what got us through. There's a whole book of what these women knew, and most of it never got written down. I put together something called the Soul Roots Cookbook, 100 forgotten Black American recipes, written out the way Big Mama would have done it, complete, patient, and true, from the Sunday dinner table all the way to the desserts nobody makes anymore. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. You can also scan the code on your screen right now, if that's easier for you. Don't let these recipes disappear the way so many already have. Now, let's keep going. We're stepping into the 50s now, family, into a Jim Crow South that told black families where they could sit, where they could eat, and where they couldn't. And every sandwich from here forward carries that weight a little heavier. Number 17, bologna and cheese with mustard, wrapped for the road. By the 50s, a little more variety had crept into the icebox, but Jim Crow meant that a road trip, even a short one, required packing every single meal in advance, because there was no telling which towns would serve you and which wouldn't. Big Mama would build a stack of bologna and cheese sandwiches the night before any drive, wrap them tight in wax paper, and pack them in a shoebox alongside fried chicken and a jar of sweet tea. Not because it was a picnic, because it was the only guarantee her family would eat that day without being turned away from a counter or worse. That sandwich was freedom, packed in wax paper. Number 18, fried chicken skin between 2 slices of bread. Nothing from that chicken went uneaten. After the good pieces were fried up for Sunday dinner, Big Mama would take the extra skin, fry it crisp on its own, salt it heavy, and press it between bread for whoever was still hungry after the meal was served and cleared. It was rich, it was salty, it crackled when you bit into it, and it taught every child in that house the same lesson. Nothing on God's earth gets thrown away if it can still feed somebody. Number 19, tomato and mayonnaise, summer style. By the 50s, this had become a full-blown Southern staple, but in Big Mama's kitchen, it still carried the flavor of the Victory Garden years. Homegrown tomatoes, salted heavy, dressed simple. On the hottest days of a Mississippi or Georgia summer, this was lunch, this was supper, this was the thing that didn't require standing over a hot stove in 98-degree heat. Simple didn't mean lesser. Simple meant she knew exactly what the day called for. Number 20. Peanut butter and banana. A sandwich that shows up in a lot of households, but in Big Mama's kitchen, it had a purpose beyond taste. Peanut butter was protein that didn't need refrigeration, and bananas were cheap and filling. Mashed together on bread, it became a sandwich that could sit in a lunch pail all day in the heat without spoiling, which mattered more than you'd think in a house without much icebox space to spare. Number 21. Peanut butter and pickle. Now, family, I know this one sounds strange to you, but don't knock it till your grandmother's made it for you. Peanut butter spread thick, dill pickle slices laid right on top. Sometimes a little extra vinegar from the jar drizzled over. That combination of salty, sour, and rich came from a kitchen that used whatever was in reach, and somehow, generation after generation, children grew up loving it, not despite the strangeness, but because of it. It tasted like home. That's all the explanation it ever needed. Number 22. Cheese and onion, fried in butter till the cheese went soft and the onion went sweet. This was a Saturday sandwich, a slower sandwich, made when there was a little more time in the day. Big Mama would slice a thick piece of hoop cheese, lay it with raw onion between 2 slices of bread, and fry the whole thing in butter in a skillet till the cheese melted into the bread and the onion turned sweet and translucent at the edges. Simple ingredients, but the technique, the patience of frying it low and slow, made it taste like something a restaurant would charge good money for today. Number 23. Fried fatback and tomato together. The salt of the fatback and the acid of a ripe tomato on the same slice of bread was a combination Big Mama swore by, especially in the heat of summer when the garden was producing faster than the family could eat it fresh. Fried crisp, laid with a thick tomato slice and a little mayonnaise, this sandwich used 2 ingredients that cost almost nothing and turned them into something that tasted like it belonged on a table with white linen, even though it never once sat on one. We're almost to the end of this list, family, and I want to ask you something before we get there. Go ahead and hit that like button if any of these brought a memory back for you. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we do this every single week, and you don't want to miss the next one. And down in the comments, tell me, did your family have a sandwich that never made it onto anybody's list but yours? Something so specific to your house that you've never heard another soul mention it? Tell me what it was. I read every single one. And I bet somebody else out there is going to see it and say, we made that too. Number 24. Pimento cheese, hand-mixed and spread thick. By the tail end of the 50s into the 60s, pimento cheese had worked its way into black southern kitchens as a Sunday staple. Sharp cheddar grated by hand, mixed with mayonnaise and diced pimento peppers, sometimes a dash of hot sauce for a kick. Nobody wrote into any official recipe. Big Mama made hers a little differently every time, depending on what cheese was on sale that week. But it was always rich, always a little spicy, and always disappeared before the second plate could be passed. This was the sandwich you made when company was coming, when you wanted the house to feel a little more special than an ordinary Tuesday. Number 25. The leftover Sunday fried chicken sandwich. And here it is, family. The last one. The one that means the most. Every single Sunday, no matter how hard the week before it had been, no matter what that family was up against, the rent, the racism, the 12-hour shifts, the roads that weren't safe to travel, Big Mama fried chicken. And every single Monday, there was always a piece or two left over, cold, sitting in the icebox, wrapped in foil. And what she did with that leftover piece of chicken is the sandwich that closes this whole list out. She'd pull the meat off the bone, lay it cold or warm it just slightly in the skillet, put it between 2 slices of white bread with a little mayonnaise and hot sauce, and hand it to whichever child was headed out the door for school or work that Monday morning. And that sandwich carried something inside it that none of the others quite did. Because that piece of chicken wasn't just food anymore. It was Sunday, folded into a Monday. It was the whole family gathered around that table the day before. The prayers, the laughter, the way Big Mama's hands moved when she was frying, all of it pressed between 2 pieces of bread and sent out the door with you, so that even on the hardest, loneliest Monday, you were still carrying a piece of home in your lunch pail. That, family, is what every single sandwich on this list really was. It was never just about being hungry. It was about a woman who refused to let hard times steal the love out of her house. She took what little she had, bread going stale, a jar of mayonnaise, the parts of the hog nobody else wanted, a garden tomato still warm from the sun, and she turned every bit of it into proof that her family mattered, that they'd eat, that they'd make it through whatever this country put in front of them. We don't have to scrape the way she scraped anymore. Most of us don't, but something got lost along the way too. The patience, the resourcefulness, the refusal to waste a single thing God gave you. Folks don't do this anymore, and that's a shame, because there was a wisdom in that hardship that a full refrigerator can't teach you. So, the next time you're standing in your kitchen with almost nothing in it, family, I want you to remember Big Mama and her 2 slices of bread. Remember that she never once let empty shelves mean an empty table. That's the lesson underneath every single sandwich we just walked through. Not the bread, not the bologna, not the mayonnaise. The love that insisted on showing up anyway. Share this one with somebody in your family who still remembers what a fried bologna sandwich is supposed to taste like. Your mama, your uncle, the cousin who still swears by peanut butter and pickle. This might be the memory that gets them talking again. Subscribe, because next Sunday we're pulling up another chair at another forgotten table, and I don't want you missing it. I'll see you next time, family.